I am not sure how Hokuzono does it, but almost every week I feel like my feelings and thoughts are heard and seen by this man, deity, god, call him whatever you want. But also at the same time, I feel like I'm just left with more questions and even more bewilderment as to just how this man is doing and getting away with what he does. So let's talk about it.
Like, I hate wasted potential. That shit crushes your spirit. It really does. It crushes your spirit.
Before we get into the video, I just want to say consider liking and subscribing. I'm trying to hit 40k before Unk turns 30 here in August, to help a brother out. Also consider checking out my other content. I'm currently covering Gachi Akuta, Jujutsu Kaisen, and some current comic book stuff, so go watch some of that stuff. Anyways, chapter 81, entitled Core, opens up with Izaru approaching our analytics guy here, our sensory guy, asking just what the fuck is going on. Now, if this guy looks and feels familiar, he absolutely should. He last appeared in chapter 46, in which he was a part of a meeting to decide what the higher-ups should actually do with Chihiro. Now, here, he kind of suggested maybe we should just, you know, ixnay Chihiro here. Now, what I will say is this chapter serves to sow some serious suspicions for everyone who appears on screen. And I will swing back to that point very soon because it is very relevant, but we are given a little flashback to the explosions that I mentioned in the last chapter. Izaru discerns that the Hishaku are trying to destroy them from within. Now, if I'm honest with you, I'd say they're doing a really fucking good job, but Izaru mentions how right now there are 4 things the Kamanabi need to protect. They absolutely have to protect, even if it costs their lives. Number 1, the force field. Number 2, the Shinoichi. Number 3, the Swordmaster. And number 4, Hackari. But also, a quick little detail that I noticed here is the different perspective of the Swordmaster. This man is literally nailed to the floor by a massive chain, like some sort of rabid, wild dog, which really says a lot about the type of human character, man-beast thing that he actually is. And it kind of reminded me of Tai Lung from Kung Fu Panda. Have you ever seen that? What a goated film, by the way. Anyways, we switch over to Hackari, who is doing nothing but giving himself words of encouragement, consistently reminding himself that he is indeed a core fighter. But more than that, he's also keeping in mind how there is no telling who is an enemy right now. And sure enough, he runs into someone who calls out to him, which rightfully scares Hackari. And I'm also just going to say it right now, this dude's a real one. He's a fucking real one. He's a G. He's the kind of dude you want on your side in a fight. He introduces himself as Kashima, and he is the troop leader who reports directly to Kudo. Now, Kudo seemingly died in the last chapter. Again, keep all of this in mind, because it is very important. The suspicions that Hokuzono is sowing throughout this chapter, it's all important, it's all relevant. Keep it all up here in the noggin in the brain case. Anyways, we can see Hackari is naturally apprehensive of Kashima here, but while they're face to face, an announcement starts to play. Approximately 4 minutes ago, pine trees sprouted from the bodies of 4 employees and attacked the vicinity. Now, this actually confirms my suspicion that these splashes in the pool that we saw in the last chapter are actually represented by each explosion that I talked about. I also love the wording sprouted, because these motherfuckers did not sprout from any heads. They burst forth violently like a chest buster from Alien, okay? Sprouted is the wrong word. Anyways, Hackari informs Kashima that Kudo protected him and ended up perishing in the process. Also, little typo here. It says Mr. Kubo. So apparently Bleach's author protected Hackari in the last chapter and perished doing so. GG's only, I guess. Mr. Analytical Man here lets us know that the Hishaku planted seeds in their bodies, and the seeds activate when the carrier dies, which I also theorized last chapter. Anyways, I'm sucking on my own dick here. But that kind of sorcery cannot go unnoticed, so why would they allow it? The Hishaku must have blackmailed them somehow, and for some reason they agreed to become the Hishaku's bombers. As we know from the last chapter, the Hishaku have a hold of family members of these pine tree bombers here, but it turns out that there are close to 50 seeds planted in all of these pine tree bombers that are yet to detonate, which means 1 in 10 people are traitors. And right now it's mentioned how close to 50 seeds are picked up, but in the last chapter we saw Hatishaku with the names of 12 people on a list, 3 of which at this point have been crossed off by Hatishaku here, which obviously represent 3 explosions at that time. But this little revelation here, the list of names and the further possibility of more espionage raises the stakes quite a fair fucking bit higher at the moment. As I've mentioned in the previous video, every new character that we meet, or even current characters that we have known for a while here, are all under suspicion for possible Hishaku corruption right here. Even the sword bearers are not safe. I mean, hell, even Samura played the nice guy for chapters on end, only to reveal that he was actually working with Hishaku, and obviously that's all been cleared up, but at the time we were like, what the fuck is going on? Even the sword bearers are not incorruptible by this whole thing that's going on right now. But the announcement continues, telling everyone that the locations of the seeds are being zoned in on right now, and telling everyone to spread out and not to move. Everyone except for Hackari Sazanami. As this was said, an absolutely batshit insane crackpot theory came to my mind, and I'm talking crackpot. I'm talking like I just shot up a line of black tar heroin. As this was said, the 1% possibility crossed my mind of what if Hackari and the Sazanami have actually just been working with the Hishaku all along. Listen, I know it's batshit, but Hokuzono did it once with Samura, shown as a dude who we thought was a friend and was actually a foe, only for him to be very complicated and been manipulated by the Hishaku later on down the line. But Hackari is a prime target for some plots and manipulations here, so listen, you can call me batshit crazy idiot in the comments down below. So long as you subscribe. You can only do that if you subscribe. If you don't, you you know. Anyways, Kashima tells everyone in the room to spread out, and if anyone even makes a suspicious move, he will break their limbs. Now, I've mentioned this plenty of times now, but literally everything that Hokuzono is doing for not only us, the audience, but for the characters in the series, only serves to cause suspicion, discourse, disarray, and unease for not only the characters, but more the us here, because it gives us all a sense that at any given moment, something could and very possibly will go wrong, especially given the fact that we know that the Hishaku is behind all of this, and especially given the fact that there is still possibly more Hishaku members running around in this headquarters, still inside this base, including Yura himself, all of which abilities and fighting capabilities we still are yet to know about. And given the fact that one of the casualties caused by these Hishaku members is already a higher up official of the Kamanabi, kind of leans into my theory that this arc is going into an Order 66 type of storyline. Anyways, speaking of Kudo, he actually appears before Hackari, completely and utterly shocking him and telling him it's dangerous to go alone. He will go with him. Now, this interaction alarms Kashima here, who seemingly is just observant at first. It's almost like he's waiting for Kudo to speak, and then when he finally does say something out of character, it's like he tells him to halt. It's like something triggers an alarm here, telling him, I'm glad you're all right, but you heard the broadcast. No exceptions. Keep your distance. Telling Hackari to continue, as Kudo once again tries to further assert that he is just him. I'm a normal dude, you know, that's me, I'm not a traitor, I swear. After shouting back, the room falls silent because Kashima tells this dude, you know, you need to stop. And you can see the tension on everyone involved here. And now, slightly off topic, I've mentioned in my past two Gachi Akuta videos that Rudo, the main character there, is drawn in a way that makes his expression seem like it's like the full 120% potential of every expression that we see. Now, Hackari in Kagurabachi also gives me similar vibes. We're in a series filled with like main characters and side characters who often just stand stoic, nonchalant, just stoic and non-compliant in the face of just batshit situations. I mean, Chihiro, this dude, constantly, I don't think we've ever seen him smile, like barely, like probably like twice in the series we've seen him smile. He more just constantly pulls this face. So yeah, but Hackari is like complete 180 of this. He's just constantly filled with anxiety and worry and emotion plastered all over his face, and things like this kind of really stand out in situations just like this one, and it just kind of make you appreciate like the detail that Hokuzono can draw on his face, and it makes the situations a little bit more tense. Anyways, we're interrupted by a face that we have not seen before, who swiftly cuts off the heads of these two folk and then stabs Kashima in the chest. However, it turns out that one of the folk who was beheaded just so happened to be a pine tree bomber. One down, 49 more-ish to go, I guess. And one of these branches comes for Hackari here, who uses ISO again to destroy the branch and then defend himself. Now, this panel reminded me of that, like, one of the first times that Hackari ever used ISO properly, way back when in chapter 36. Just gave me like that bit of nostalgia there. Anyways, after being blasted back, Hackari comes to and sees that Kudo is actually holding Kashima at knife point. Now, when I first saw this, all I could think of was, holy shit, I was right. My reaction to this on stream was just excited, and all I kept saying was I called it out, but I was wrong. And in fact, Hokuzono actually basically just said, "You're an idiot," and played my dumb ass for a fool. He also gave us something very, very interesting to add into all of the suspicion and discourse happening right now, because not only do we have people who are lying about their intentions, we also have shapeshifters now, because this motherfucker, who we actually thought was Kudo, is actually some random who we've not yet been introduced to. And as he explains, yeah, Mr. Kudo died protecting you, but this is just my transformation sorcery. However, this dude's face and this girl's face look strikingly similar to two faces that we saw in the previous chapter that my chat eagerly pointed out while we were streaming this today. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think these are the same people, or do you think it's just an eerie coincidence? But I will go back to this point a little bit later on. Now, I've mentioned before how what's going on gives serious Order 66 vibes, and that's only serving to feel more and more correct as we get further into all of this shit, because these two traitors mention that's the last of Kudo's troop. The quota has been met, and the Western Underground sector's main force has been neutralized. Now remember, in the last chapter, Kudo explained how each of the council members are up there in age, but each of them directly commands their own elite troop, and we got to see little glimpses of those elite troops, which means Hatishaku probably has squads of pine tree bombers embedded close to each and every one of the council members and their troop, or all of it, to be eliminated here, which is why I keep saying I'm getting Order 66 vibes, because these dudes are the Jedi and their troops are the Padawans, and they're slowly but surely being eliminated. And as far as we know, Kudo and his troop, they're gone off the table, completely gone. That's one of the higher upper echelon members of the Kamen Army completely gone. And if I had to bet, I would say Azumi is probably going to be one of the only survivors from this attack, given how he's directly mentioned as being a level above the rest of these guys here. Anyways, Kashima tells Hackari to run and to not trust anyone. Remember, I told you this dude is a fucking real one. This guy, he literally just lived and died in this one chapter trying his best to protect Hackari's needs here. Now we cut back over to our sensory dudes here who mention how the casualties are mounting as we see more and more splashes signaling more and more pine tree explosions. But here, Izuru recognizes that it's not just the pine tree bombers who are a threat here, but there are also people who work here who were able to get the Hishaku information on the families that have been abducted in order to use people within the Kamen Army as bombs. Notice how Izuru says people here, not person. He doesn't say singular person, he says people. Now, meaning there could be way more traitors amongst the Kamen Army than we initially anticipated, because remember, there was the classic fan theory that Azumi was actually the traitor, or it was going to be Shiba. We've all been looking for one person. Maybe it's just a fucking group. Now, remember back in chapter 18, the council higher-ups seemed to have a bit of a disagreement based on how the sword bearers and their swords were handled, and there was some disgruntlement there between these council members, meaning it's very possible some of these council members might have turned tail, disbanded here, and given how two of the traitors shown in this current chapter look very similar to the two that we saw under the council's troop in the last chapter, I'm saying it's very, very possible. Anyway, this dude is freaking out about how they have no idea who our enemies are, while they know exactly who our key forces are, as well as our locations. Now, Izuru tells him, calm the fuck down, and tell our sensory guy here to identify anyone not following orders and to stay put and to spread out, because those are the orders, so if anyone's not following them, off with the heads. He mentions how once they get through this ambush, it's the perfect opportunity to clear them all out. Now, this is where we cut back to Hackari, who was running from these two traitors, and it's here where we get to see a more familiar Hackari, because if you remember, I mentioned in the last chapter how he felt more confident, he was assertive in his orders against the two that were trying to attack him. But here, this is a more familiar Hackari, one riddled with panic, nothing like the confidence that we've seen from him in the prior chapters here, but we can see he is being swarmed with thoughts of dread and self-doubt and worry, saying, they all died to protect me. I can't rely on anyone. I am alone. I have to fight. All his eyes are looking glazed over here. His hands are shaking and he's hyperventilating like an asthmatic smoker. Even remembering how his sorcery has weakened. And all while this is going on, he is still being chased and is about to be caught by these two traitors who have just been revealed to us. And it's at this point, none other than fucking Uraha Yoji makes his appearance into a hallway running directly at fucking Hackari. Now, when I first saw this, I thought Hackari was hallucinating, but no, this is absolutely real, and there is a lot that we have to talk about here, so buckle the fuck up. Hackari sees Ura running toward him, and the first two things that cross his mind is, one, Kashima telling him not to trust anyone. 2. Hackari remembers some of them have transformation abilities. Now, as I mentioned before, that transformation ability and shapeshifting, that's gonna act like a Chekhov's gun, I think. I think at some point, that kind of thing is gonna come back to bite us in the ass. I'm telling you, Hokuzono's got me down a rabbit hole with this whole espionage type shit here. However, Uraha here shouts something to Hackari that only he would understand. One word: centipede. Now, this is actually a callback to a callback, because in chapter 49, when being swarmed by Hirohiku's forces on the train, Chihiro shouts the word centipede to Hackari, in which he emulated the actual centipede ability from his fight with Kiora, who was wielding the Shinoichi, who has the ability called centipede. It's funny how they're trying to protect and remove a sword that has an ability that almost killed them a few chapters back. That's quite interesting, but this piece of information is something only Uraha would know, because he was present at the time and Hackari dragged him down to avoid the attack to make sure he didn't get beheaded by it. Now, unless, of course, it is a shapeshifter who can also take the memories of its host. But more importantly, Uraha uses the EI White Purity style, a style learned by only a handful of people, about 3 or 4 people, give or take. So even if this was a shapeshifter using Uraha's memories, they still more than likely wouldn't be able to use a mastered sword style that only a handful of people know how to do in the world. But Uraha cuts down the 2 traitors and tells Hackari to come with him, because he's going to explain everything on the way. To which Hackari bursts out into tears, agreeing to go with Uraha. Now, this is all well and good, but I'm sure a lot of you have some questions as to how Uraha come back here. But first things first, I want to talk about Hackari, because this dude, he was blaming himself for Uraha's death. Like, he was literally, like, he wanted to repent and atone for this death. That was the last thing he saw before he went into a coma. And after he woke up, he's just been thrown right back into the fray. And now, in the very same day that he's apparently woken up, I think, this dude has literally seen the dude who he thought was responsible, who he thought he was responsible for basically not saving here. So that's nice redemption for Hackari there, to be honest with you. I like that Hokuzono is giving our boy some nice redemption moments here. But I have some answers as to how Uraha could have possibly come back. Now, you see, over the past couple of chapters, Hokuzono has done a stellar job with the subtext and characterization of Samura and his goals. I've done nothing but glaze Samura over those couple of top 3 chapters. Still top 3 chapters for me in the entire series. Don't care what anyone says. But first, we need to take it back to the beginning, to chapter 59, where Samura cut down Uraha and revealed that he was actually working with the Hishaku in that big plot twist. In that fight, Samura did 2 things. 1, he used a normal sword to cut down Uraha, and 2, he uses a Tobimune to quote-unquote kill Uraha. Now, as we learned in chapter 77 and 78, Tobimune's third ability is Suzaku, and it is explained as followed. I'm paraphrasing here. Suzaku can regenerate, but it can't resurrect the dead. Regeneration is incredible, and beyond that, there's been a number of things never before recorded during the war. I don't know what sparked it, but he's evolved beyond his abilities 18 years ago. Now, obviously, these 2 statements sort of conflict and contradict each other, because it's telling us it can't resurrect people from the dead, but also at the same time, we've seen 2 people get killed by Tobimune and just get up and walk it off, apparently, which is obviously Uraha and Chihiro, both of which were struck down on the same day, both of which could have potentially gone up at the same day, because we don't know how long Uraha's been back for. Could have been just now, could have been when Chihiro woke up, could have been as Uraha, it could have been as Samura activated Suzaku recently. But on the other hand, we have been told that Samura has evolved his abilities, and it's this last part here that I think is where the truth is going to lay, because I think it lays within the true realm of these swords, because over the past course of these 80 chapters that has laid out for us with Kagurabachi, he has hinted and teased at these swords changing and conforming to its wielder and to its wants and needs. Cloud Gouger changed with Sojo's wants so he could harmonize with it and attain slaughter. Whatever the fuck that means. Cloud Gouger also strained itself to save Chihiro in its final moments multiple times here. And then we know Hirohiko managed to change how Kumayori worked so that play would work on humans and not just objects, because that was how he viewed them. These swords abilities are changing based on their wielders. And these examples are all from inexperienced users. Hirohiko had never wielded a blade before. Sojo had the blade for like, what, a week or 2? And Ben 10 has only been on the field with Chihiro for what, 2-3 years tops? So now we're looking at Samura, whose goal right now is to kill the sword bearers. A goal he's so committed to, he left behind his daughter to do so, and even entered into a pinky promise with Yura to do so. Meaning, this is something Samura truly wants. He's in his mind, he's telling himself, this is something I need to do, I have to do this. Meaning Tobimune, combined with Samura's years of experience with the sword, would change to attain that goal. That's his wants and needs. So Tobimune's true realm is going to form to help that. However, Samura's goal is obviously not just as straightforward as kill the sword bearers. His pinky promise with Yura demands he has to kill the sword bearers, but the reason he has to do this is so the blades are then free to use for the Hishaku, which furthers Yura's goals, obviously. But when Samura is quote-unquote killing these bearers, he's resurrecting them shortly after, thereby adhering to the pinky promise of killing the bearers, but also setting them free from the eternal contracts, meaning that when he eventually does kill the swordmaster, the eternal contracts don't kill off the other sword bearers at the same time. There is definitely a lot more going on with all of this, and it does raise the question of if Samura told Uraha all of this information or not. It is even quite possible that they talk to each other, potentially in a space or realm similar to how Chihiro and Sojo talked to each other way back when, in that like little dining room area where they're sharing some sweeties and all that good shit. But whatever it is, I'm excited to see it all unfold. I won't lie, this was an absolutely fucking stellar chapter. We're quickly approaching 100 chapters for Kagurabachi, man. I've been covering this shit since chapter 10, and it makes me feel genuinely happy and warm inside to see it really fucking holding its own ground and weight like this. It's really nice to see. But anyways, that is everything from me. Thank you all for watching. Massive shout out to all the channel members. If you've not already, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Much fucking love. Big fucking kisses. Peace.